At one time, my brother was gonna get 8 years. He had already did 4. You do is sign off on it.
That was Master P revealing that his brother C. Murder could have been home years ago if he had taken an 8-year plea deal and listened to the people who loved him instead of the people around him in jail. C. Murder refused, went to trial, and got life without parole. And now he's being attacked by those same people in jail. And guess what? There's no one there to save him. Here is what Master P said, how the case got to that point, and what it has cost the family ever since. Sometimes you've got to listen to the people who love you. In early March 2026, Master P sat down for an interview that nobody saw coming. Not in terms of what he was willing to say. For over 2 decades, the public version of the C. Murder story had stayed inside certain lines. He is innocent. The witnesses lied. The system failed him. The family is fighting. Those things had all been said before in rallies, in Instagram videos, in interviews, in court filings. But this time, Master P added something that had never been said publicly. He told the world that his brother had been offered a deal 8 years, and he turned it down. The interview circulated widely on social media with a clip posted by my mixtape on X going viral across Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Facebook. The offer, Master P explained, came approximately 4 years into C. Murder's incarceration around 2006. In the window between his overturned first conviction and the retrial, Corey Miller had already served 4 years by that point. The deal would have required him to serve 4 more. Then he could walk out. At one time, my brother was going to get 8 years. He had already did 4. You do sign off on it. For years in, for more to go. Sign it and come home by 2010, possibly even earlier with time credits. That is the math. That is what was on the table. And C. Murder said no. He maintained his innocence, refused to sign anything that implied otherwise, and chose to go back to trial. Master P then said the line that became the headline. But sometime you got to listen to the people that love you, right? You know, instead of listening to the jailhouse, people come and go, women come and go out your life. All this stuff, man. Jailhouse people. That is the phrase that landed because Master P was not talking about strangers. He was talking about the specific category of people who cycle in and out of a man's orbit while he is incarcerated. People who make promises, who offer advice, who build influence inside those walls versus the family that was out here on the outside doing the actual work of fighting for him. He continued, pulling it all the way to the bottom line. When that time go, you're going to find out who real or not. Your family going to be there no matter what. Then he made the case's real tragedy explicit. It's tough on these streets. Even though my brother innocent, think about it. But you prolonged this so long. He did not retract the innocent claim. He kept it right there in the same breath. My brother is innocent. And he prolonged this both things. Because for Master P, the issue was never whether C. Murder pulled that trigger. The issue was the decision to go to trial to bet his freedom on a jury in Jefferson Parish, one of the toughest parishes in Louisiana, rather than take the certainty of 8 years and come home. And finally, the summation, the line that reframes the entire 24-year ordeal into one sentence. Even though my brother innocent, think about it. Yeah, but you prolonged it so long. And so I just think if you have took the deal early, yeah, we would not be dealing with it. That is the whole thing right there. Not 20+ years in Angola. Not hunger strikes and federal filings and Supreme Court denials. Not a family stretched across 2 decades of fighting, visiting rooms, legal fees, Instagram videos, public fallouts, and all of it. None of it. If the deal had been signed in 2006, Corey Miller would potentially have been a free man by 2010. Back with his daughters, back with his family, back in the world. He refused, and the retrial came, and the jury voted 10-2. And the judge said life without parole. That was October 22nd, 2009. From that day forward, every legal effort, every appeal, every filing, every recantation, every federal petition produced the same answer. No. The first state appellate court said no. In 2011, the Louisiana Supreme Court said no. In 2012, the U.S. Supreme Court said no. In 2013, a federal district judge said no. In 2023, and on February 4th, 2026, the Louisiana Supreme Court said no one final time, unanimously, all 7 justices, closing the last remaining state-level door. The court ruled that Miller had exhausted his right to state collateral review and failed to show any exception that permitted another filing. Every state-level avenue was now gone. Miller responded publicly, said it was not over, and vowed to keep fighting. And days later, Master P sat down and told the world about the 8-year deal. The timing of that revelation is not incidental. Master P was reacting to the denial, to the finality of it, to watching his brother absorb another blow from the courts after 2 decades of blows. And what came out was the truth he had been holding for nearly 20 years. The one decision that, in his view, set the entire catastrophe in motion. Not the night at the Platinum Club, not the witnesses, not the jury. The moment in 2006 when a man who believed he was innocent chose to bet his freedom on a system that was not built to protect him. Master P has spoken about the weight of that choice and what it means to watch someone refuse to come home with a clarity that only someone who made the opposite choice could deliver. So, you gotta want to do right. But are you trying to keep him in the right mindset? Yeah, I mean that's my family though. That is the thing about this story that never changes. No matter what the courts say or what the family argues in public, C. Murder is still his family. The deal that was not taken is still the deal that was not taken. And the years that have passed since 2006, all of them are the cost of that refusal paid in a currency that cannot be refunded. The case and the system behind it. To understand why turning down that 8-year deal led to life without parole, you have to understand what C. Murder was walking back into when he chose to go to trial and the specific machinery that was waiting for him. On January 12, 2002, at the Platinum Club in Harvey, Louisiana, a 16-year-old fan named Steve Thomas was beaten and fatally shot once in the chest during a brawl involving 15 to 20 people. The club had skipped metal detectors for VIPs and celebrities that night. In the chaos of the altercation, 2 eyewitnesses, security guard Darnell Jordan and another witness named Kenneth Jordan, identified Corey Miller as the shooter. No murder weapon was ever recovered. No DNA linked Miller to the gun. Miller was arrested within days and charged with second-degree murder. His first trial in 2003 ended in a conviction, but it was overturned the following year after it emerged that prosecutors had withheld criminal background information on 3 key witnesses from the defense. That is what opened the window for the plea deal. Miller was released on bond in 2006, placed under house arrest, kept recording music, and kept maintaining his innocence. The deal was offered. He refused it. The retrial came. In August 2009, the same 2 witnesses took the stand again. The jury deliberated for over 13 hours across 2 days with reports of chaos in the deliberation room. 1 juror vomited from stress, and an initial verdict was rejected by the judge as invalid. The final vote was 10 to 2 guilty. 1 juror later claimed she had been brutally pressured to change her not guilty vote during deliberations. On October 2, 2009, Judge Hans Lilberg sentenced Corey Miller to mandatory life imprisonment without parole. Bowie Badass, who had been C. Murder's cellmate and had read through the case materials himself, described what he believed the conviction actually came down to. "I'd done read that case 100 times, bro, like, they really took him away because who he was." Then he put his finger on the detail that gets overlooked in most retellings of the case. They tainted the jury, bro. Like when he was going to trial, they was showing his Baton Rouge video with him in the club shooting and like this. That Baton Rouge incident refers to a separate 2001 shooting at Club Rags where Miller had fired a weapon into a crowd after being denied entry. The jury tasked with deciding the Harvey murder was reportedly shown footage from that unrelated event. They already walked in carrying the weight of the name C. Murder. Then they were shown real footage of Corey Miller with a gun in another club. Any presumption of innocence was functionally gone before deliberations began. And then there is the name itself. The stage name that moved records that projected exactly the persona prosecutors needed the jury to see walked into that courtroom ahead of the man and stayed there throughout the trial. Boozy addressed it directly, and unfortunately, you have this name of C. Murder, which automatically puts the jury at a certain level of apprehension. That is not a minor detail. It is the entire psychological architecture of the prosecution's case. They did not need to prove beyond the chaos of that nightclub that Corey Miller pulled a trigger. They needed the jury to believe that Corey Miller was the kind of man who would. The name did half that work. The Baton Rouge footage did the rest. Jefferson Parish, where the trial took place, was described by Master P himself as one of the toughest parishes in the state of Louisiana. Bowie framed the broader Louisiana context in terms that go beyond this single case. And Louisiana is a hate state towards black entertainers with money. All black entertainers in Louisiana go down. If you don't move out, you go down. The legal structure of the conviction gave that claim concrete form. C. Murder's 2009 conviction came on a 10-2 jury vote. At the time, Louisiana was one of only 2 states in the country that allowed non-unanimous jury verdicts in non-capital felony cases. The history of that rule traces directly back to post-Reconstruction Louisiana, a deliberate mechanism to dilute the influence of black jurors on outcomes. In 2020, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled in Ramos versus Louisiana that non-unanimous jury verdicts are unconstitutional. The ruling was not applied retroactively. C. Murder's conviction stood. The constitutional change came. It simply came too late for him. Master P spoke directly about the Jim Crow roots of that jury system when discussing his brother's case. Once you get into a jam, especially you're a celebrity, like you're going to get made an example of, like you got to know that. The post-conviction chapter has been equally relentless. In 2018, both Kenneth and Darnell Jordan signed affidavit recanting their trial testimony, claiming that police had threatened them with unrelated criminal charges if they did not identify Miller as the shooter. The recantations were featured on the investigation discovery series Reasonable Doubt. Hip-hop and social media erupted. This, people felt, was finally the break. It was not. In January 2019, a state court ruled the recantations suspect and not reliable, pointing to the fact that both men had identified Miller consistently and repeatedly before the trial. No new trial was granted. In November 2023, U.S. District Judge Sarah S. Vance upheld the conviction at the federal level, ruling that Miller had failed to show clear and convincing evidence of error. And then in February 2026, the Louisiana Supreme Court closed the final state-level door unanimously. Inside the prison, the attacks on C. Murder's body and health ran parallel to the attacks on his conviction. In 2018, he launched a hunger strike at Angola, protesting conditions he described as cruel and unusual. In 2021, he went on hunger strike again at a Lane Hunt Correctional Center, accusing the Department of Corrections of medical neglect. Civil rights attorneys Benjamin Crump and Ronald Haley Jr. were brought in to demand action. Boozy, who understood these tools from personal experience, explained why a man in that position reaches for a hunger strike. Because he's gone on like hunger strikes and stuff like that, right? Yeah, because that's the only way you get attention. This is the full shape of what C. Murder has been living inside a system that convicted him on recanted testimony under a jury rule, since ruled unconstitutional in a parish with a history of aggressive prosecution, with a stage name the prosecution used as character evidence, and then held him through hunger strikes and denied appeals and federal court ruling that said the same thing the state courts had already said, no, every time from every direction. And the door that might have bypassed all of it was the one he declined to walk through in 2006. The family at the center. The plea deal revelation did not land in a vacuum. It landed on top of 2 decades of a family being publicly pulled in every direction by a situation none of them chose and none of them could fully control. And to understand why Master P said what he said in March 2026, you have to understand what the years between 2006 and 2026 actually looked like for the Millers. What they gave, what they lost, and what they are still waiting for. Corey Miller and Percy Miller grew up together in the Colopy Projects in New Orleans' 3rd Ward. Their father left early. They were raised by their grandmother, Big Mama, alongside siblings Silk the Shocker, a sister named Jermaine, and a brother named Kevin, who was murdered in the early 1990s. Losing Kevin early was its own wound. The kind of wound that families from those environments carry without naming it, because naming it does not change anything. Master P channeled it into building. After inheriting $10,000 from a grandfather's malpractice settlement, he opened a record store in California that became No Limit Records in 1991. He pulled Corey, Indiana. He pulled Vishan in. The Millers built a genuine empire out of nothing. And for a period in the late 1990s, they were one of the most commercially dominant forces in hip-hop. C. Murder's album sold in the million. Life or Death debuted at number 3 on the Billboard 200 in 1998. They had made it out of the Kalapi projects. The family had survived everything the Third Ward threw at them and come out on the other side with something to show for it. Then January 2002 happened, and everything that came after it pulled the family apart in slow motion. Master P's early public stance was unwavering advocacy. He organized a rally at Xavier University in New Orleans in 2018 to demand his brother's release, standing on a stage in front of a crowd and making the case for Corey's innocence. He talked about the recanted witnesses. He pointed at the systemic failures. He framed it as a justice issue, a race issue, a Louisiana issue. He was not wrong about any of those things. And he kept paying legal fees, visitation, financial support for C. Murder's children. The Miller family and Master P specifically carried a significant weight of keeping this fight going for years. Then came 2020, and it cracked. When Kim Kardashian and Monica publicly announced their efforts to help free C. Murder, Miller responded from inside Angola by calling them his angels and his ride or dies. Free C. Murder. Miller responded from inside Angola by calling them his angels and his ride or dies. Master P watched that, and he could not absorb it quietly. He went on Instagram. The video was raw and unedited, grief and frustration moving through him in real time. He started with their grandmother. My grandmother, she's not here right now. She's my angel. I know that. He was building toward a comparison. Big Mama, the woman who raised both of them, had been coming to Angola to visit Corey for years. She had gone through the searches at the door, the waiting, the glass between her and her grandson, the indignities of the prison entry process. In Master P's telling, she had never received from Corey the kind of public acknowledgement that Kim Kardashian received for one tweet. And she should be his angel. I never heard him talk about her like that, but I know Kim Kardashian put out one tweet and she is angel, which is crazy to me. He still said his brother was innocent. He still said he wanted him home. He said he was grateful for Kardashian's involvement. But he could not reconcile the hierarchy. The people who arrived recently being placed above the people who had been there for years. You know, I know he's incarcerated and I get that. But still, you have to have a heart for the people that really helped you. Then came the announcement that shook social media. He was pulling out. No more financial support. No more visits. He described what it cost every family member just to walk through Angola's doors, the physical searches, the emotional toll of watching someone you love through prison glass, and said he was done. I'm not going through that no more for ungrateful people. So all y'all bloggers or whatever, y'all could understand one thing. The ATM, I'm pulling the plug off. The internet read it as abandonment. That reading strips out the context. Master P never said Corey was guilty. He never changed his position on the conviction. He said gratitude toward the grandmother, the mother, the father, the siblings, the aunties and uncles who had absorbed the cost of this fight had to mean something. He then addressed C. Murder directly through the camera, pointing at the people who had actually caused the situation. You never wrote a book about them turning on you. I mean, how could you? How is that real? How is that true? 'Cause that's your word, truth. He was talking about the people on the streets the night Steve Thomas was shot. The ones who turned on Miller went quiet and were now living free while Corey sat in Angola. His argument was not that C. Murder deserved to be there. It was that C. Murder was shielding the people responsible while his own family's names were being dragged through years of public attention and private sacrifice. And underneath all of it, the rally in 2018, the 2020 fallout, the pulled support, the Instagram videos, was the plea deal. The door that existed in 2006 and was not taken. You know what? My brother, man, my brother been going through it. My brother been going through it, and I'm praying for him, and I feel like now everything that didn't happen. He has never stopped praying. He has never stopped believing his brother should come home. Even the 2020 rupture was not permanent. By 2025 and 2026, Master P was back publicly speaking on the case, back framing it as a fight worth continuing. The love did not go away. The frustration got louder for a period, and then it settled back into something that looks more like grief than anger to get him to where he need to go. 'Cause that's what I did. When I wasn't all the way right, I start asking God like, man, show me something. You know, I don't want to die out here. I want Master P's own transformation from the Kali projects to No Limit Records to the life he built runs through everything he says about his brother. He made a decision to change. He believes that decision opened doors. He believes C. Murder needs to make the same kind of surrender, not to the state, but to something larger than the fight. And he believes that the 8-year deal back in 2006 was an early version of that same moment. A chance to let go of the principle and choose the life. C. Murder would not take it. He chose the fight. And the fight against this particular system in this particular state has now consumed more than 2 decades. And that's prosecutors. And that's what we waiting for that to happen, cause he deserved to be out here. You know? Yeah, with his family. He still says that Corey deserves to be out here with his family. As of March 2026, Corey Miller is 54 years old. He remains at Louisiana State Penitentiary serving life without the possibility of parole. His case is now with the U.S. Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals following the 2023 federal denial. A state petition for factual innocence under Louisiana's 2021 law remains pending. The witnesses who put him there have taken it back. The jury rule that convicted him is now unconstitutional. And every court that has heard the case, state and federal, has said no. Boosie closed it the only way it can be closed. Like that's, I don't see how he that strong, He's still strong. He still be smiling. Master P said his brother could have been home. He said it out loud on camera for the world to hear and see. Murder still inside Angola. Still insisting he did not do it. Still smiling is the reason that sentence is the most painful one in the whole story. That brings us to the end of this video. For more interesting videos like this, click on the cards on your